Christian Jack alongside Vice President of FIFA and Head of CONCACAF, Victor Montagliani. Great to see you, my friend.
Great to see you, KJ.
It's close to the holiday season, so a good time to just look back on 24 and look forward. We're here at the FIFA Canada head office, so let's start there. I don't know if you know this, but it's 550 days to the day Canada will kick off. The stadium we can see right outside this window, BMO Field, on the 12th of June 2026. For someone who probably wrote the plans out on a paper napkin at a restaurant, how does that feel? It's coming together nicely.
Yeah, the napkin's still in good shape, but what's in better shape is the journey that we've had here since really 2011, since the day we conceptualized this. And look, 550 days, and I'll probably, the next time I talk to you, you're going to say that number is like hours. So yeah. That's how fast it goes. So listen, it's been a great journey, and obviously a lot of hard work still to do between all the cities, and but we're next, and we'll be ready.
You talk about being ready. What's kind of some of the things that you're asking Canada to obviously be on the front burner in 2025 to make sure we continue to get closer to this?
Yeah, I mean, there's the blocking and tackling that needs to be done,
right, yeah.
and Peter Montgomery is leading that in terms of getting the venues ready, and all the buckets that need to be put in place with the levels of government, security, and all that. So that work is in earnest. And then there's all the great stuff, the marketing and all that. That'll happen, and tickets will go on sale in Q4 of 25. But people can go to FIFA.com to start registering for that. So that kind of all takes care of itself. And then, my focus really as the Confederation President is to, as much as possible, have the 3 host nations and the other, hopefully 5, CONCACAF nations that'll be at the 26 World Cup perform. Mm-hmm. And so my focus is as much on the sort of bricks and mortar of 26, but also on ensuring that we do well in the tournament. And that's why we've, perpetuated our Nations League and expanded the Gold Cup and all the things we've done to give more competitive games to the teams to get ready, that when the World comes here, that, we'll be able to get minimally 4 teams out of the group stage, 3 teams into the quarterfinals, and 1 team in the semifinal.
Oh, lofty goals, but
yeah, I've actually communicated that to all the nations.
Okay.
So I'm not saying which nation, but that's the expectation that I have in terms of performing for CONCACAF.
I understand why you would want that, and obviously all those CONCACAF countries you look at and treat equally, but you are Canadian, we are here in Canada. I want to ask you about Canada, because when this bid was first launched, there's many people who didn't know it would even happen and take place. On the field, people thought Canada was very different to Mexico and the United States at that time. You got Mexico and the US, powerhouses in CONCACAF, make the World Cup every time for a long time. And Canada, we're very different to that as a team. But now, they've been to 2022. Now they're competing in the Nations League Final Four against these 2 aforementioned teams. You've got to be pleased, no, about the development on the field that obviously assists off the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I don't know if it's a Canadian thing, but we always like to, we'll do 9 things right, and the one thing you do wrong, we'll talk about the one thing we did wrong, rather than 9 things we've done right. And with all due respect, I think the industry of football in this country has done a tremendous job over the last 12 years, maybe even 15, in terms of, the MLS has done what they needed to do. Heads off to the clubs for academy and all the things they've done. We've created the CPL, mm-hmm. And that league, even if its infancy of 5 years has shown that it's contributed to the landscape, right? Now a women's league. Obviously our national teams have performed well, and the women were ahead of the curve of everybody else, and they continue to do well. And our men's team, and I knew it in 2012 because we changed strategically how we actually do business at the CSA in terms of how we prepare and all that stuff. And listen, to me it's like you enjoy a great glass of wine. And right now we're enjoying a great glass of wine because we got we got Alphonse or whatever. But a lot of people have to till the ground, put down the plants. Somebody's got to pick the grapes, and then you have a great glass of wine. So there's been a lot of work done in the Canadian soccer, right, at all levels, to get to where we are today. Sure, has there been hiccups? Has there been people falling down? Yeah, absolutely. But that's the journey of a real footballing nation. Mm-hmm. Welcome to football, Canada. Mm-hmm. And it's not always pretty. And there's repercussions when it's not always pretty. But, I have to say that in the last dozen years or so, you know what? We should all be proud of the journey Canada Soccer is playing. And now we're reaping the benefits with our two top flagship teams, men and women, performing at the highest level. And, and our men's team had a great Copa America. Hopefully they have a great Nations League and a great Gold Cup and moving on to the World Cup. And, the women's team, they always have a great Olympics. I think the one glass ceiling for them, and they know it, is the World Cup. That team needs to find a way to break through that glass ceiling of getting to the World Cup final, because they have the talent to do it. I think the players know that. And ironically, I thought, I've said this to many people, I thought played better in Paris than they did in Japan.
Yeah.
They were tremendous. And so they just got to continue that. And so for me, I think that's the way I like to see the journey to this date. And I think moving forward, the opportunities of this country are endless.
It's really well said. As somebody who's blessed to cover the sport in this country and is really passionate about storytelling, I spend a lot of time talking about on the field. And as we try to spread this game in this country, some people want to keep talking about off the field. And as you mentioned, the issue is the one issue out of the 10. And 2024 for some will be remembered by DroneGate. Right?
Yeah.
Well, we obviously are on the field. And I know FIFA doesn't have the power to do anything right now about that. It's a Canada Soccer case. But as the leader of CONCACAF and Canada Soccer, what is your whole opinion on what's happened here?
Listen, at a personal level, I just think it was stupid. I'm not sure what the hell you would get out of that. And you know what? Listen, it happened. They got caught in Paris. They went to the judicial system of football. Boom, and it happened. Get on with it. Right. And you know what? Get on with it. The players, quite frankly, deserve for the footballing nation and the nation, just get on with it. The players deserve that. Yeah. The repercussions that happen, it happened, right? You don't need a royal commission every time somebody gets a red card. It happened. It wasn't a good thing. They were penalized for it. I think we need to support this women's national team because they have a tremendous amount of talent, and they got a lot of, important matches leading up to the World Cup in 27. In mature footballing nations, there's stuff that always happens, right? Different things. They deal with it and they just get on with it. And I think we're at a point where we need to get on with it.
I remember you and I talking during the 2015 Women's World Cup in this country and what a brilliant job Canada did for that Women's World Cup. And at the time we were thinking, a chance for a Men's World Cup, maybe this is probably going to be a once in a lifetime event for Canada. But for the women, I would say that there would be another hat in the ring for CONCACAF. No, in a few years' time, is this maybe what we're seeing in 2026 joint bid, something that we might want to see one day for the Women's World Cup in this country as well?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Mexico and Canada, Mexico and USA, we're thinking of bidding for 27, and then they kind of step back. I don't think they were ready. They're thinking of doing that again for 31. Because Canada hosted in 15, I think there was a little bit of, it's too early. So that's why US and Mexico put their name forward. I haven't talked to anybody to see what their intentions are for 31. But, if it's not 31, at some point, yes, we'll be back in the line for that as a country. To your point, I actually think the Women's World Cup, and President Infantino said it in the Congress, and I agree with him 100%. After the 27 Women's World Cup in Brazil, the women's game is ready for 48 teams.
Yeah.
Okay, because there's a lot of infrastructure, there's a lot of investment going in the women's game, and if you see some of the teams that didn't qualify for Australia in Europe, in Africa, even in our confederation, Mexico never qualified. There's teams that are good enough to be at a World Cup that didn't qualify, and that list will grow as we get to 31. So I think the women's game is ready for 48 teams.
It's a natural accelerator, is it not?
100%.
To progress that game. On Tuesday night, CONCACAF have the CONCACAF Champions Cup draw.
Yes, we do.
3 Canadian teams. The Whitecaps are back in as the rightful holders of the Canadian Championship. 2 more Canadian Premier League teams are back again. Cavalry from Calgary, Hamilton and Forge. How excited are you about for that competition again under this rebirth of the name for the second year, and for these 3 Canadian teams in particular to get another shot?
When I first became CONCACAF president, we had the Champions League, and it was a good asset. But a lot of the clubs didn't prioritize it. And to me, that was a cultural thing. They just, well, we want to win the MLS Cup, or we want to win La Liga, or we want to win Central. But now, everywhere I go, club presidents in every league in CONCACAF say, our priority is qualifying, and in some cases they say, because they think they have the team, winning the Champions Cup, because they understand that for a club, that is the ultimate aspiration, to be playing in the highest level at the regional level, and then possibly qualifying for now the new Club World Cup, which is another feather in their cap. Mm-hmm. So, that evolution has taken about 6 to 7 years, but it's come.
It's hard to believe, though, isn't it, Victor, that in the short amount of time for the birth of the Canadian Premier League, that we've got Forge going toe-to-toe with Chivas Guadalajara, Cavalry going toe-to-toe with Orlando, and not winning, but being very much competitive.
No, listen, the games, if you watch the games, they were toe-to-toe, and they lacked maybe a little bit of finish on the final third, or a little bit of naivety when it came. But that's the reality of a young league, young players, and that's what the league was built for. And but there'll come a time when and maybe it's this time, where they'll knock off a giant.
They're certainly hoping to get maybe Messi in the draw as well, one of those CPL
well, yeah,
teams.
I think everybody wants to get Messi.
I'm sure they do. Last one for you as we look towards.
But can Messi do it on a cold night in Hamilton in February?
Well, we'd like to.
I'm sure he can, actually.
We would like to find out for sure. Nations League, March 2025, Inglewood, California. Final Four. Doesn't get much better. Canada start with Mexico. The United States are there, maybe in the final. Panama. We've got a lot of teams there that all teams who believe they can win it. But then a Gold Cup as well. So as leader of CONCACAF, to have two elite tournaments very close together, and I know all of those teams want to win it. What does the state now say to bring in the competitive value up of those teams, as you say they want to move towards performing in the World Cup?
Yeah, and from a preparation standpoint, I mean the Nations League, starting from the first one we had, which was tremendous, and building upon that, and Canada now getting to a final. Panama is a very, very good team that can knock off any of those other three. Yep. They're really tough to play against. So the Nations League has built its own kind of, and it's great because it's a weekend and it's boom, boom, 2 tough games. And the countries love it. By the way, all new coaches, they need to test themselves and their teams. But the Gold Cup, I think, is the ultimate preparation for the World Cup. It is the last chance that our host nations, and some of the ones that probably fancy themselves to probably be there in the end, will get to prepare your team in a tournament-style environment where you come in, 10 days, 2 weeks before, your team's there, you're training, and it's the whole crescendo of a 30-day plus tournament, which will be exactly like the World Cup. And it's unlike a September, October, November fixture where it's a friendly and you come in, you probably barely train because guys are coming off their club, or you do train, but and then play, and then sometimes they only play one game because they got to go back to their club. It's not a way to prepare for a World Cup. I mean, you play those games and that's fine.
Yeah, you need a tournament experience.
But you need tournament experience, and and I'm sure whether it's Jesse or Mauricio, right? They know that, and they're probably itching to get their team in that environment. So I think it's going to be a tremendous Gold Cup.
And as a CONCACAF lead, all 4 teams obviously mean the exact same to you. But as a Canadian, we hope that Canada finally wins the tournament, and maybe they're ready. No, they look ready to compete. No,
let's be honest. I mean, what was it? I think after we qualified for Qatar, there was this moniker being thrown around, and by my very good friend Kyle. I think he did it tongue in cheek, but he said, "Kings of CONCACAF." I said, "Buddies, until you win something, qualifying doesn't make you a king. Qualifying means you qualified." So you know what? Until you've actually won, you got some hardware in your trophy case, which means you win the Nations League or you win the Gold Cup. Then you can start having that. You know what? And the players know that.
They do.
And they've said it. They know it. They know it. I mean, listen, it was all tongue in cheek, but the players know it. It's time for this group, and it's time for our country to start collecting hardware.
Kyle being Kyle Larrard, I was the one doing
I
the
love the
interview
guy.
at that time. He's a great guy. But to be fair, it was time for Canada. They'd won the CONCACAF group.
Oh, I
right?
get it.
It was
I
time
get
for them to push
Yeah.
their chest out a little bit.
I get it.
You know,
Yeah,
they brought US and Mexico on notice. No, they were like, hold on, no, we're athletes. So it's nice that they're on their
I get
radar.
it. And by the way, there's always that kind of banter is always great stuff.
It's good for us as a storyteller. But my point being is Mexico and the US are on notice now that
100%.
Canada are in this competition.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Victor, always a pleasure.
Always a
Happy
pleasure.
holidays, my friend.
Thank you
Great
too.
to see you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas
to everyone as well.